Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? You look ready. Let's go get some freelance work. Okay, so it's time to go out and get your first job as a freelancer. The first thing you're going to need is a portfolio. That should be fairly obvious, and hopefully you're working really hard to make that the best portfolio possible. That's probably a blog for another time about portfolios, but best work and only a few pieces. I think that's probably the best advice I've heard. Also along the lines of portfolio, there's the idea of being unique, and that goes for freelance work in general. If you've got some sort of unique talent or something special about you, then you want to show that off in your portfolio, but also that can make you more desirable for employees if they're looking for a specific style. But it can make you slightly less employable if that's the only thing about you. So there's a fine balance there between having a unique style, but you still need those general skills to be employable. I must admit I found it very hard getting out there into the freelancing world, and I suppose I still do in some degrees, but I'm not chasing after the work. When I first started I was, and I think I was a bit too desperate, so I went on sites like Fiverr and People Per Hour, and I would thoroughly not recommend going on there. You're up against a huge pool of people. It's very sort of client-centric, so all the emphasis and favoritism is on the client side, whereas you as a freelancer are kind of treated a little bit badly, and the prices that some people are offering to do the work are extremely low. There's some interesting YouTube videos where people show the results of going on to one of these sites and seeing the differences in prices. It's very revealing. I might try and put a link in the corner if I can find one. Remind me. Now, most of you watching this are probably using Blender, and that poses its own problems in fact. Because it's free software, that means the community is generally people like students, hobbyists, or they could be very small studios, because it's free software. Not to say that Blender isn't brilliant, it's an amazing piece of software, but the bigger studios will go for bigger pieces of software like Maya, Max, or whatever it might be. Now that's not a problem as such, because you can still go out and get the work, let's say modeling work, you can still make the models, send them off and export them as FBX or OBJ files, that's all fine. But if you're working on some sort of collaborative project where they're all using Max or Maya and they want you to download that project and work on it somehow, then you're not going to be able to do that. But I would say generally that's not too much of an issue. But some people may look down upon Blender because it's free software and therefore look down upon your skills. So in response to that, you'll need an excellent portfolio to say, I am this good. So where do we actually need to go to get that freelance job? Well, you need to get busy. You need to get on some forums and advertise yourself. Don't go overboard with that. It can get really spammy and irritating, especially if you're just going onto a forum and saying, here's my portfolio, and then leaving. You need to actually, like I said last week about immersing yourself in the community, you need to kind of do the same when you're selling yourself. You need to interact with people, find out about them as much as you want them to find out about you. And really take an interest, because that's when you find out what people are doing, and then you can actually offer them some sort of solution to their problem, if they have any problems that is, and you can find out where the gaps might be, where you can fit in and help their team. There are sites out there that have job opportunities and they'll have a specific forum for that, Blender artists for example, and they post job roles. And go on there, check them out, chat to the people who are offering the work. You may have to take on some work for free. This is a very contentious issue. It's a difficult one. Lots of people say don't sell yourself short. I understand where they're coming from, but when you're first starting out, you need to build up some clients, build up relationships, and some of that is going to mean helping them and putting time in to try and get some work out of it. Assessing that work and whether it's really worth your time is going to be the challenge. So once you're in the community, you're chatting to them, you're finding out about them, then you can pitch for some work. But the thing is, you probably want to come in at a bit of a discount price. And if you've been chatting with these people properly, then they'll probably know a bit about you and the fact that this is your first time doing some freelance work, then offer a bit of a discount. But be clear it's a discount. So say what your full rate would be and that it's a discount, because then when you get future work, you can up your price to your full price. But when you suddenly try and up your prices, they'll say, well, what's going on? Why was it so low to start with? Our job as sort of creative designers, artists, 3D artists or whatever, it's a very fun thing to do. So it's a really competitive market. And freelancing is extremely competitive. You're also going to be competing against a few hobbyists who are looking for a bit of extra cash. So it will be tough getting freelance work. But what you've got to do is try not to get too stressed about it, try not to reach too much and start spamming people about getting freelance work, get angry at people perhaps. I have seen that, and I've seen a few people that are quite bitter that no one wants them to do any work for them. Those sort of negative feelings can have real consequences because they'll come across slightly when you're communicating with people, and that will put people off. That's why I say you really need to transition into freelance work. It can be very difficult, very competitive, and to suddenly, let's say, quit your job and try and go freelance is very difficult. If you haven't got a job at the moment, then looking at freelance as a career can be quite difficult. You probably need to try your hardest to get into the industry, into a full-time job instead. So don't stress, it will probably happen really slowly, and you may have to take on a few jobs for free. I'll give you one example of that. I met someone recently, it was actually on a forum, and this person was asking for video work. At first I thought about my students, maybe they could do it, and I did pass that person on to my students and said, they're looking for some work, maybe you can offer them something in return, but generally it's going to be a no-pay job just for experience, and that's what my students need. Initially this person was very interested because it's a charity-based thing, but after a while she realised she didn't want to work with students because it was quite a sensitive subject. At that point I thought it would be a good thing for me to help out and do some sort of charity work in this case, and I'm in a lucky situation where I can do that sort of thing. So I helped this person to do these videos, and it was fairly time consuming, but it was well worthwhile because it's an important message and I'm happy that I did it. But more interestingly, working with this person, they realised that I was quite a good person to work with, had good communication skills, I was easy to work with, and that the video work could be really useful for her other business. So therefore she actually employed me to do some video work. And I decided to take this on at a discount price. And there's a reason for that, because this person was quite an entrepreneurial person, and I knew they had lots of contacts, they were easy to work with, and I felt like they probably had some good contacts that could get me more work. And in fact it worked for me because they then passed my name on to someone else who was a photographer, and they were really interesting to work with as well. And I actually worked for them at a discount rate because I knew that they had clients that would be interested in their work as well, and I thought the link up with a photographer and video work would work really well, and that's still working out. And there's lots of possibilities on the horizon for me, and there's lots working out. I've got out there, I've met people, I've got 2 different clients there, and I've got a good avenue to lots of other people and lots of other work. So there's a few lessons to be learned from that, I think. One is don't be afraid to work for free, but generally speaking, as long as it's improving you or developing your business in some way. The second is communication skills, absolutely vital, being easy to work with, but I think that's probably another blog for another time. And lastly, which I haven't touched on much, but be really good at what you do. Treat every job as if it's your most important job, and try really hard with it. Especially at the start, you might have to put a few extra hours into those jobs. Because remember, those clients are your advertising. They are the ones who will be word of mouth and they'll pass your name on to other people. I suppose the last thing, and the most important thing to me, is try and enjoy it as much as you can. With those jobs, they shouldn't be as stressful because you're taking them on at a discount, so you're doing people a favour. So try and enjoy them as much as you can. That will make you an easier person to work with. So lots to think about there. I really hope that helps you. Do remember the competition deadline is the 29th, and get across to the Discord server and take part and have your picture on the wall of fame if you win the competition. Be creative and have fun, and thanks for watching.